Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. This is Lindsay, and this is Linda's Investing. Today, I'm really excited about this guest I brought you. This is Miss Violetta Sandoval, and she is a real estate investor that also invests out of state. Hi, Violetta.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for having me on here. I'm so excited to talk about real estate investing because I love talking about it.
Yes, and actually, I had the pleasure of being on your podcast before, so
Yes.
it was really good. I think I was scrolling through Instagram, and was it Well Para Todos? I think it's another
Mm-hmm.
influencer that does financial advice on Instagram. That she was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, if you want to talk about real estate, you should talk to Violetta." And I was like,
Yes.
"Violetta, let me find out." And then so I went on your page and I just like stalk you for a few days before I submitted my application. I was like, I want to be on her podcast. So
Yes.
yeah, that was how I found you. But tell me, Violetta, I know that you invest out of state and then you
Mm-hmm.
also fell into investing in properties. But before that, how did you find real estate, this whole new world?
Um, it was all by accident because I originally just bought a house for myself, my first house, because that was basically, I guess, the next step, right? To, finding a good job and everything like that. So I decided to go get a house, and I'm in the military. So I was able to get that first house with the VA home loan, which is awesome for anybody that's like veterans if they're listening or active duty. Utilizing that VA home loan is a game changer. And because I didn't have to have a down payment. So I think I only had to pay for probably like maybe 2,000 worth of closing costs. And so I bought that house for myself, and I ended up house hacking, which at that time I didn't know it was like a strategy or anything. Like, I was just like, my friend needed a place to stay, and I was like, okay, sure, I have extra rooms. It was a 4 bedroom, 2.5 bath, a house, little small house. I think it was like 1,300 square foot or whatever. So it was just me and my dog, and I was like, sure. And then, of course, with the military, you have to move every, few years. They send you somewhere else. So when that time was coming, I had a supervisor. I was stationed at a ship at this time, and he was actually a property manager. Now, he told me like, hey, how about you rent out your house and, I'll manage it for you, which, that's another, tale in itself. But that's how I ended up just renting out that house. And that's what I did. And then when I went to the next duty station, I was like, okay, I could buy another house and rent it out. And that was a big learning curve. And I didn't realize that I would have to learn so much. So I kind of winged it the first few years. It was a struggle, but yeah, I kind of just like fell into it without knowing what I was doing.
Okay. Yeah. So you definitely like, oh, you thought like, what do I do now? Like, what is financially stable? What is my next decision going to be? Like, do I buy a new
Mm-hmm.
car? Do I buy a house? And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to be a homeowner. And then so you
Mm-hmm.
get that house. And but you didn't think in the future this was going to be a rental. You just think I'm just going to live here
No.
because this is where I need a place to live. So I'm going to buy a house. And then one
Yeah.
of the benefits of the BA loan is like that no down payment, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
so you just get that house. Where was that first house that you bought?
This house was in Virginia, in Suffolk, Virginia.
Hmm.
So
And
it
it's
was up
that's just
there.
not a cheap market, right? Virginia.
At that time, at when I bought it in 2014. Um, it was I also got lucky because that area where I was, and I remember because like my coworkers were like, "Why are you moving there? It's kind of like, like they called it the boondocks because it was very like undeveloped, and this was an old established neighborhood." But by the time I left, like it had a big boom. Like it just exploded with developments. They did a whole shopping center and a whole bunch of just building of houses and things like that. And so, yeah, when I was thinking about buying a house, I was just like, well, I just, chasing the American dream of wanting to have a house, but that was it. It didn't go past buying the house because I didn't even think of like, oh, I'll move in a few years or what am I gonna do with it? I was just like another check mark. I wanted to have, and I didn't like the idea of renting and um because I wanted to do what I wanted to do in my house, like have my own stuff, decorate it how I wanted, paint the rooms, which I did do that, and painted them tacky, like hindsight, but at that time, I enjoyed I enjoyed those colors.
Yeah, yeah, I have the same experience of buying my first house. It was such a thing, like such a goal to do that, like you said,
Mhm.
like check off the checklist, and you're like, now I have a house. Like now I take care of everything. It was like the doom feeling of moving, and I was like, oh shoot, everything breaks. It's me.
Yes.
Like you don't think past that goal, like you achieve it, and then you're like, okay, well now I have to think about saving like a budget for this house,
Oh
not
my
just
God,
like the
yeah.
mortgage, not just like just bills, but you're like, oh, I need a savings account for this house particular just in case anything breaks, and you're like, now I'm thinking about that afterwards.
Yeah.
But so you had the first rental, and then you have to move because you have to relocate.
Mhm.
And then so
Mhm.
you're like, okay, I'm gonna rent this one out. And then once you rent it out and you move to your next location, do you like see that starts clicking like, oh, maybe I can make money out
Yes.
of this?
Yes, and that was the problem. The problem I focused too much on the money aspect because I was like, how hard is it to just like, rent out this house, right? Like put it to rent, you get the rent money and then that's it. And I didn't realize all that goes into it. So when I went to buy the second house, again, I had the mindset of a house for myself. So instead of looking for a property that I could, add value to or whatever, I was looking for a nice house that I wanted to live in, right? And that was like my mistake because I didn't know any of how to calculate cash flow or anything like that. So, um, loved that house, was awesome. I was there for, I think I stayed there for 2.5 years because I was going to school at that time. The Navy sent me to Texas to finish out my degree as part of a commissioning program. And I house hacked that one too. That's what saved me too, was that I ended up house hacking that one because now I had that mindset of just like, I'm by myself, like, I have extra room. So I ended up house hacking it, had some girl live with me and but but I didn't think of anything of, calculating maintenance and property management and blah blah blah. And so then when I left, then I was like, okay, well, time to rent this house out now, right? Well, that's when like, reality set in and that house was not going to rent the rent for that house was not going to be enough to, uh cover the mortgage plus the property manager and not even, maintenance and all that stuff. So I was just to have the house, I was paying about $300 out of pocket just for to pay like the property manager and the little extra from the mortgage. So, um, and then later on, I had to fix, I forgot what I had to fix at that time, and I had to replace it. I think it was the washer and dryer. And so then that's when it started like, oh, I probably should have like accounted for these things, right? And so that's when I started doing more research on what I need to know about
After the second
real
house.
estate. Yeah. And, at that time, luckily, I started like researching more and started listening to podcasts and YouTube videos. And I ended up joining a military Facebook group that's for military, doing real estate investing and other investments. And that's where I started finding people to kind of mentor me. And then I started learning about all this, like calculating cash flow and planning for all these things. But yeah. It was a reality check right there.
Hmm. So you're in Texas, you have two houses. One, it's covering the mortgage and all of the bills, and then the other one,
Mm-hmm.
kind of an alligator, like it's stealing money away from you every month, right? And
Yes.
you're like, if I'm gonna continue doing this, then I better like learn how to do it the right way, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what are the tools that you reach out to research? Like, did you just type it on Google and then you were like real estate investing? Okay.
Yeah, I was like just how to buy rental properties, which do I need to know about, being a landlord and stuff like that. And so, because, I relied on the property managers and I was like, you take care of it, and then at some point I was like, all right, I need to get educated on this. I started listening to just podcasts. I found some, and then that Facebook group was a lot of help.
Hmm. Hmm. And at the time you were using both for both houses, you were using VA loans.
Yes, both houses I acquired them with the VA loan.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then where does your journey take you after those two rentals?
So at this point, um, of course, then COVID hit after that. So I was renting out both of them, and the house in Virginia, it was doing well. The the problem was that when COVID hit, that he was a shipyard worker, so he had trouble, like, with work and stuff. And he was there for a little bit of time, but even though there was programs there for I think rental assistant at that time. I forgot what the program was called, but there was a program there to help renters pay their rent, and so that way they don't get evicted and stuff like that. And so there was a little bit back and forth there, and that was my first kind of like eviction, but it wasn't. We didn't evict them. We just did cash for keys type deal. But when he moved, he kind of left the house a mess, and that was my first time dealing with that, and it was so stressful, and having to do the repairs. Uh, I think it was like I think it ended up being like seven, maybe 10,000 in repairs, which in hindsight is not too much with me having lived in it, and then like the appreciation and all that stuff and the rent and all that stuff, because all that stuff needed to be fixed anyways, kind of like capex
Mhm.
type stuff. So but I wasn't in the right mindset then, so I got scared. And then I was like, "Ugh." Plus I had that property manager, which is the second part of that story, is that I didn't do enough research, because he was my supervisor, someone that I worked with all the time, right? But he was not a good property manager,
Mhm.
like, and so we had issues with that. Then I ended up getting another property manager, which was another horror story there, because she was a part-time realtor, which, she did it part-time. So then I'm trying to like get this house, ready to get back,
On the
into
market.
the rental market. That was issue after issue. It ended up being like, 2 months, and then at that time I was like, you know what, I just don't want to like have that house anymore, because at that time, from the Facebook group, I ended up getting a mentor that was investing in small multi-family properties, and we were talking and everything. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this as, a shift, and I want to switch over to my strategy to multifamily properties. So I ended up just selling that house, which was a huge hassle as well. I ended up just selling that house as is, because it was just taking too long for her to like schedule out repairs and everything like that. Which I ended up getting lucky, because it was during that when houses started just to skyrocket. So
That's
people were
right.
just trying to get anything, and so I was like, "Ah, you know what? I'm gonna take my chance and just like sell it like that." So I did. And then with the second house, I did the same thing. I just ended up selling it because it wasn't cash flowing. And I had people telling me like, no, just keep it for the appreciation. I was like, but that's not my goal. My goal is to make cash flow now, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what ended up kind of turning on the light bulb and making that switch. And, for me to actually start taking real estate investing seriously.
Mhm. So you learn all the things that you need to learn, like how to actually vet a property manager, like what questions are you supposed to
Mm-hmm.
ask? Who are you supposed to contact when you're like checking a new market? You said you have got a mentor
Mm-hmm.
on your Facebook group. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the most important things because I also fell into my market with other people that were already investing in the market, not for
Mm-hmm.
appreciation, for cash flow successfully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that gave me not only external proof of concept, but when I started doing it, my own proof of concept. But switching from those two markets, Virginia, and what was the second one you said?
Texas.
Texas, to what market did you go next?
So I ended up going to the Milwaukee market, and the reason why was because it was more affordable of what you know I could afford to invest in at that time. Plus, again, I was focused more on cash flow. It's a little riskier because it's a low income neighborhood, and these properties are have usually more maintenance, but because you get them so, at lower price, it kind of like balances out. You just fix everything up the front, and, you get your long-term tenant in there, and then you're fine. But the startup kind of takes a little bit of a while because uh sometimes you have to vet the tenants, and, until you find a good one. And then of course all the stuff that you have to fix because you're taking over these properties from uh these landlords that were not doing just the basic maintenance on these properties. So you end up getting, but again, with my mentor, I was able to find some good properties, and that's what I just ended up starting to do. Is and at this time, I had moved from Texas to San Diego, which San Diego was like, there's no way I'm going to invest here. I did buy a house in San Diego, but I ended up selling that one as well, which I did house hack as well. That was a good investment though, too. That was a good property as well. But I ended up selling it because I ended up getting a second loan on it for a surrogacy journey, and which was awesome because I bought it for 679 and I ended up selling it for 840. And I sold it because, again, uh yes, appreciation was
Mhm.
nice, but my goal is cash flow. And then it was also fire zone area. We were
Mhm.
just outside of the fire zone, so like the fire insurance and everything was just going high. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna wipe the slate clean, get out rid of all the debt. And yeah, with the money from there, I ended up buying my third duplex.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
And okay, so a lot of people listen to me and then they say, you're investing in Indiana? That's so far. Like, how do you manage properties from that far? Were you scared? Because before you were living in the property, right? You were living
Mm-hmm.
in the area, seeing the house, feeling the house, and then getting it rented, kind of like a warm handle.
Yeah.
And the second market too. When you went to Milwaukee, were you scared? Like, what do you say to the people that were like, "Oh, you're crazy. Why are you buying that?"
Yeah, people, I guess, can't understand just like doing that, but it's a strategic move, right? It's not like I just went out there and just bought a house, like, through a mentor and also researching, and you find people from there. So a realtor that's, familiar with that area and understanding what I'm trying to do and what I'm looking for and all that. And then the property manager, this time I made I made sure I vetted them very well. So I have a pretty good property manager, and the first one was definitely scary because it was something new and it was the first official, like, this, I am buying this property to actually invest as a rental property. All the other ones, like you said, I'm living in them, so it's like I'm not thinking like too much as a real estate investor at that point. But this is the first one that I'm actually buying as an investment property. So I did a lot of research at that time for sure, and a lot of hesitation at the beginning, but again, I luckily had people to kind of like, no, just, you got to do it at some point, right? And so I did. I took the leap, and after the first one, then you get that confidence, right? Especially if it works out, right? So you get that boost of confidence, and then now I'm like easy now, just like, okay, this is what, where my realtor already knows what I'm looking for, and it's just easier time now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think we skip that step because the research step, they call it analysis paralysis if you dwell too
Mm-hmm.
much on that step, but the research step is key, right?
Yes.
You looking at the prices, looking at the rentals, like how much they're rented for, looking at what you would set aside from vacancies, expenditure, capital expenditures, property management, and everything. Like you're doing your work, like you're doing your research, and then
Mm-hmm.
when you're before you even put it your offer, you're like running the numbers for like. I don't know how many deals you were running them for. Like every day, I was running the numbers for like all
Yeah.
the deals that I saw, and you're like, how many days on market does this stay, and somebody would snatch it up, and I was like, oh, that was that, like I was on the right track. I was that this is something that
Mm-hmm.
is gonna not stay quick, not gonna stay very long in the market. And
Yeah.
then you're talking to other people from the area, like your realtor, vetting your property manager. So it just gives you more of the confidence of like their market analysis is closer to yours. And if it's
Mm-hmm.
so far off, then you're like, okay, maybe I need to research more. But if you're getting
Yeah.
close in market analysis, such as them, then you're like, okay, well, I'm getting on the right track. And then it can take months of you researching and getting that courage of like deploying like thousands of dollars because
Mm-hmm.
this is not another VA loan, right? It was your down.
Yeah, this one's actually a conventional loan, so now I use my conventional loans at this moment.
Yeah. So it's a lot of money to deploy. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
like, what am I gonna do? It's like, is everything gonna go wrong for me? Is that my luck? But no, trust yourself and then trust the process and trust all the steps that you're taking, right? Like before you
Mm-hmm.
kind of like wing it, like you said. And now you
Yeah, I winged
actually
it.
have data to back up your decision, have data, have
Mm-hmm.
talked to people that are in the business. You have a mentor that's already, doing this too. So that gives you more confidence and then you can
Mm-hmm.
walk that path now. So
Yep.
do you mind sharing the numbers? I know you have three properties, three multifamilies out of
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee. The numbers of your best deal.
My best deal from from Milwaukee, I would say would be probably the first one because I got it. I mean, it was perfect timing for that one. I mean, I have it at right now, I think it's at 3.75%. So I squeezed that one in when those percentages were still
Nice.
down there. The other ones are higher, but so I managed to get that one. And this property was pretty well taken care of, and I got it for 113,300 is what it was. 25% down
Mhm,
for that property. And then I think I only put maybe like 10K for like updates. I took out the carpet and just put LVP all over, so I don't have to worry about painting it and all that stuff. So, and then I right now it's rented out each side 925.
mhm,
And so, and then my mortgage right now, it went up now because the taxes, but it's I think the mortgage is at like 900
mhm.
now. So,
Your PITI.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
But also because it's up that high because also of the escrow. So I just got the escrow letter of saying like, hey, it's gonna go higher. And so of course they want to recoup the money plus adjust for the next. So right now it's at 900. And I was gonna pay it like the difference so that way it wouldn't raise, but I missed the deadline because I was too busy over here. I missed the deadline. So oh well.
So if I have the math correctly here, just renting out one unit out of your duplex would cover for all of your expenses,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
mortgage, your PITI, and then the other unit is your cash flow, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then my property manager charges me 8% right now,
Mhm.
which is awesome because they do like all the bookkeeping. They do everything. And it's nice. I could just get on the app and I was like, oh, since they all paid their rent or whatever. And um they do the evictions and all that stuff. That's a extra fee, of course, because of the court fees and stuff. But they do all the bookkeeping and I just switch it to my own thing because I like to track, the percentages and all that stuff and add my mortgage because they of course they don't track the mortgage. So
Mhm.
yeah, and I don't have to worry about anything. But yeah, so far so good. So I would say that one was my best deal. The second one was a little bit learning phase, and then the third one was also kind of learning curve because it was my first section 8 property. So there
Mhm.
was extra things that I had to do there that I didn't know that I would have to pay for and stuff. So uh
Mhm.
learning as we go, but so far all of them cash flowing.
Awesome. And what do you think is your motivation? What is the goal at the end of the market? Like what are you getting all of these rentals for?
So right now my goal is to build enough cash flow to pay for basically my bills, my lifestyle. Not too much, not like the fat fi, just, paying the mortgage. And right now with these three rentals, it's on average, right? Assuming like no big maintenance stuff comes up, it's already close to paying off my mortgage. I would say it's like 80 to 85% of the mortgage already. So I would say a few more to pay for the bills and all that stuff. So I want to say probably at 10 would be enough to, because now I have to think about like having money to save up for my daughter's college fund and all this other stuff. So, and then of course travel. And then I do want to buy property in Mexico because I kind of want to live like a hybrid situation where I go over there for a few months, come over here for a few months and stuff like that. So that's going to be added there as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
mostly just being able to be in my backyard, raising my chickens and, gardening and all that stuff. And traveling here and there. So that's what I want.
Yeah, and I know I'm cheating too because I know you from before, but you are going to move to Texas, back to Texas, right?
Yes, I'm going back to Texas. I bought some land over there and putting a manufactured home on there. And yeah, just going to be homesteading. And then my parents bought the land next to mine, so it's going to be kind of like a little family compound and stuff. So that's my dream life. That's my why of why I'm like buying real estate.
Hmm. And not only that, you're also opening up a course for people that want to invest in real estate directly to, everybody, but including specifically Latina girls, like girl women
Mm-hmm.
that want to get into real estate.
Yes, yeah. So I have an investing course for specifically rental properties, and I'm starting up right now for a wait list for the Claim Your Keys, which is going to be a coaching program for Latinas to help them overcome how you mentioned earlier of like that paralysis, the just staying stuck of like either it's overanalyzing, maybe you're just scared because of what we were talking about, investing out of state's very scary. So it's a lot of mindset work and coaching, and also that mentorship that was provided to me that got me to invest and take that leap. That's what I want to help Latinas do as well, because we need more. We need more of us out here, and we're few in between, which is awesome. Like to every time I find someone else, I'm like, yes, I'm so excited to see more Latinas. So that's my ultimate goal. But yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that that's such an amazing service that you're providing to people like me because I would have loved to have anybody around me that were like, oh,
Hmm.
you can do this also because you don't know, right? The information is in our community. Not everybody knows about real estate investing, and even in my family, any close friends, they don't do any of this.
Hmm.
And so the information is out there on the internet and it's all for grabs, right? But
Yeah.
there's no that like hand holding phase of like, here you
Yes.
go. This is what escrow looks like. This is how much a down payment would look like. This is how much a closing costs look like. This is what 30 days you have for your inspection. Like nobody is telling you all these things. And you're just like,
Hmm.
Google like everything. You're like, oh, what am I supposed to do next? What am I supposed to do next? What am I planning? And then so it's so much needed for that
Hmm.
mentorship. And then in just representation matters, obviously. And then just to
Yes.
see you succeed definitely gives you everybody else the confidence. So like, Violetta did it. I can do it too.
Yeah, it's a lot of that is just being out there and motivating because I think a lot of them it doesn't cross their minds. I think right now they don't see, Latinas doing it, so it doesn't think they, inspire them to do it and think that like, oh, that's something that I could do, right? Because the other thing is like the idea of like how we was talking about that, my goal is to just build enough cash flow versus having this huge portfolio. And I feel like that's another conversation as well to have is, you don't have to invest in real estate to build this huge, multimillionaire portfolio. Like you see them all the time. Like, oh, I have a 19 plus million portfolio, blah, 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 right? And so I feel like that sometimes deters people too, because like, well, I don't need that much money, right? But no, you could do real estate investing for, to get financial freedom, build enough cash flow. And for me, real estate investing also helped me have my daughter because I was able to utilize the equity of my house and the cash flow paid for fertility treatments and stuff like that. So like it's you can do so much with real estate investing. So yeah, that's why I'm so passionate about it, us getting into it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's not the only way. Like we're not telling people, hey, this is the only way that you can make money. If it's like, no, it's just an additional way. If you create a
Mm-hmm.
business, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to do something else, like totally fine. Just diversify yourself, supplement.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, yeah, because even back just a few years ago, like muchas Latinas didn't know about, all this stock options and how a 401k worked. Like they knew it existed, just like with real estate, but now I've seen the switch since like COVID of just the mentality and the representation, like a big boom of like investing, but a lot of it's like stock investing and stuff. So now this is another thing that we need to bring in and show that like, hey, this is available for us too, and we can do it.
Mhm, mhm. And I wanted to ask you, what have you learned about yourself in this real estate journey?
Oh wow. That I think that I am more capable of things now. And also like of what my why was. So like at the beginning, um I kind of mentioned that I was just kind of lost in the wealth portion of it of like making money, like, oh, money, right? Dollar signs. But as I go through, you really have to understand like what do you want? What are you capable of, how do you want your life to look? And that is one of the things to keep in mind because one of the mistakes that I see people do when they get into real estate investing is they go for the wrong strategy or the wrong type of property that doesn't align with their vision of their life, right? And so they get burnt out, and I see it a few times with some investment groups that I'm in, and it's all because they decided that they wanted to manage their own property when they are going to school and working and have a family. It's like, yes, of course you're getting burnt out and you don't want to do it. Like send it to a property manager. So just knowing yourself. And that's what I had to learn is like, okay, what is it that I actually want to accomplish with real estate and who am I? Like what kind of life do I want to live? Because I was very lost into the ambition and, like trying to basically be an overachiever. And now I've switched to like, actually, I want to live like a slow life where I just enjoy my family. I get, be out there in the backyard, drinking a coffee, watching the chickens run, and my daughter probably chasing them, and and going out and seeing the world. That's what I want. I don't need to like be getting awards at my job, or like being trying to like get promotions, back to back to back or whatever. So I think that's what I had to learn from myself.
Right, right. Yeah, I definitely agree with you that there's the almost that imposter syndrome that you
Mhm.
are like it's holding you back all the time. Like, can I do this? I don't think I can. And if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to, right? Like nobody's gonna do the
Yeah.
work for you. But at the same time, you're I think this is I don't know if it comes from our upbringing or us immigrating here or having like immigrant families that like we're all about like hard work. We make
Mhm.
money because we work harder, but
Mhm.
we don't sit down and think like, do I need to work this hard? Like, do I really
Mhm.
want all of those things? Like, do you really want to spend more money to get a bigger house, to get a bigger car? Like, do I want those things, or do I just feel like I need to have those things? 'Cause everybody
Yeah.
else is working towards that, and
Yeah.
it just, I guess, when you are pushed, like you said, the universe had to like push you down and think about it. Like, if when it comes down to it, we are just trying to do this for freedom of your time, right?
Mhm.
More money, this substitution of my money that of me not working and putting it into a rental property that's making, profit or cash flow. You're you are doing it to give some of your time back, even if it's now or later in life when you retire or whatever whenever that happens. It's so you can have more time to enjoy more things, to be with your family. At least that's what I
Mhm.
think, like the loved ones around you, and then just
Yeah.
enjoy being in the present. And we get caught up so hard of like, no, 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 you can't stop. You just have to keep going and then overextend yourself.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. It's definitely a mindset shift that I've had these past few years of like, what am I really doing? Like, why am I like chasing and working so hard, and when in reality I just need this. And so that's helped me so much mentally, to just understanding that and learning to like chill out a little bit, which doesn't go well at work. Right? Because
Yeah.
if you're not like being overachiever, or like, trying to do too much, then you're like lazy or whatever. It's like, no, my priorities have changed now.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I know you're a mom now, you have a young daughter, you have a
Hmm.
husband, and all of that will continue to evolve. And you reserve the right to change your mind. And then maybe
Exactly.
you'll start like 13 more businesses. I don't know. But
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it might, it could be that I just need a break or something. Maybe I'll take like a year or two and then back on the grind. I mean, yeah, it
yeah.
depends, life changes.
Hmm. Hmm. Awesome. Well, you came to me on Mother's Day. I want to wish you a great Mother's Day to you, and that you have a wonderful time today and tomorrow because you get to celebrate
Mhm.
twice. And thank you for your service. I know you're still in the army. You're gonna continue to start stay on the reserves, I believe. And
Yeah, I'm going back to the Navy Reserves because they apparently I didn't finish my contract. They slipped that in there. I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'll get my retirement, so
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
fine.
Yeah, well, you continue to be there, but we appreciate you, of course. And I would like you to have you back on the podcast, obviously,
Yes.
and then we can go from there. But it was a pleasure talking to you today, and we'll see each other around. And then I
Mhm.
see you guys later. So I know that we'll bring you more interviews throughout the week. So stay tuned.
Bye. Thank you.